Hey, Fred, look over there.
Make a record of your voice. Hey, that gives me an idea, Barney. We could make a record for the girls, a sort of souvenir of their night out.
Hey, that's a great idea, Fred. And every time they say, we don't take them out, we'll play it back to them.
Before streaming, before cable, before anyone had even thought to put a cartoon in prime time, there was a show about a Stone Age family that somehow felt more real than half the live-action sitcoms surrounding it. The voices made it that way. Fred, Wilma, Barney, and Betty were performed by 4 people who poured genuine craft into every take. And every single one of those 4 people shared a habit that would eventually cost them their lives in strikingly similar ways. What the audience at home saw as charm and warmth was, in the recording booth, something far darker. The story of how all the original Flintstones voice actors died is truly sad and uncanny. But before we get into it, drop a comment below and tell us who your favorite Flintstones character was growing up. And honestly, can you even picture that character sounding any different than they did? Because after hearing what these performers went through, we're guessing the answer is no. Betty Rubble, Bea Benaderet.
He is an orphan and needs a good home and the peaceful surroundings of bedrock. Whee! Oh, Barney, we've got our very own baby.
Well, all right, if you say so. I'll keep it.
No, you won't. You'll take it back and exchange it for one 2 sizes larger.
Mom!
You'll do as I say, or you won't keep it at all.
Bea Benaderet was born April 4th, 1906, and from the very first episode of The Flintstones, she gave Betty Rubble her warmth and her wit. Her career in voice work ran deep long before Bedrock ever existed. She voiced Witch Hazel in the Looney Tunes short Bewitched Bunny and the widowed hen Miss Prissy in several Foghorn Leghorn cartoons. She also contributed voices to other Merry Melodies and Looney Tunes productions throughout the 50s. Building a reputation as one of the most reliable character performers in the business. Outside of animation, Benaderet was a recognizable face in live-action television as well. She played Cousin Pearl Bodine on the Beverly Hillbillies and took on the lead role of Kate Bradley on Petticoat Junction, both of which were running at the same time she was still voicing Betty. She was also, by all accounts, a very heavy smoker, reportedly going through multiple packs of cigarettes a day. When doctors found a spot on her lung during the production of Petticoat Junction's 5th season, she chose not to step away from filming to seek immediate treatment. She cut back on the habit, but she did not stop working, and she did not stop smoking entirely. It was a decision that cost her everything. A tumor was found on her lung and was determined to be inoperable. Bea Benaderet died October 13th, 1968, at age 62. Making her both the youngest and the first of the original 4 Flintstones voice actors to pass away. Jerry Johnson took over the role of Betty Rubble for the show's remaining seasons, but those who had grown up with Bea's voice in the role noticed the difference immediately. Fred Flintstone, Alan Reed.
Wilma, I'm home! No, Dino, no, Dino, bad boy! Oh.
Alan Reed was the original voice of Fred Flintstone, and in certain respects, he was Fred Flintstone. The character was reportedly modeled in part on Reed's own physical appearance, and his approach to the role was unusually grounded for animation of the era. Reed insisted on playing Fred in a natural, conversational register rather than leaning into a broad cartoon style, and that choice helped establish a new standard for voice acting in animation that still carries influence today. His film career was also substantial. Reed appeared in Days of Glory, Nob Hill, The Tarnished Angels, Viva Zapata, and Breakfast at Tiffany's, among other productions. He had also built up years of experience in radio and television before landing the role that would define his legacy. Like his castmates, Reed was a longtime smoker, and the health consequences arrived first not in his lungs but in his bladder. In 1967, he was diagnosed with bladder cancer, and his bladder was surgically removed. The cancer did not return, but the damage from decades of smoking had taken hold elsewhere in his body, and Reed developed emphysema, a progressive lung disease that steadily reduces a person's ability to breathe. He continued to contribute to Flintstone specials and spin-offs for years after his cancer diagnosis, but his health was clearly declining. On June 14, 1977, Alan Reed died of a heart attack at St. Vincent Medical Center in Los Angeles, 2 months before his 70th birthday. Henry Corden, who had already been voicing Fred in films and specials since the mid-60s, assumed the role entirely following Reed's death. Barney Rubble, Mel Blanc.
Hey, Fred, let's go bowling, Fred.
That's you? How about that?
If any name on this list requires the least introduction, it's Mel Blanc. Born Melvin Jerome Blanc, May 30th, 1908 in San Francisco, Mel earned the title Man of 1,000 Voices and wore it without exaggeration. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Tweety Bird, Sylvester the Cat, Yosemite Sam, the Roadrunner, Woody Woodpecker, Barney Rubble was just one character among an almost incomprehensible body of work. What makes his story stand out is how early his relationship with cigarettes began. Blanc started smoking at the age of 8, and by adulthood he had become a chain smoker, working through a full pack every day. For a long time, the habit seemed to have no visible effect. He survived a near-fatal car accident in 1961 that left him in a coma, and even during his recovery, a temporary recording studio was set up at the hospital bedside so he could continue providing Barney's voice without missing episodes. The resilience he showed after that accident became the stuff of Hollywood legend, but the compounding toll of more than 7 decades of heavy smoking eventually caught up with him in ways no willpower could overcome. Mel died July 10, 1989, from heart disease and emphysema. He was 81 years old. In the years since, the role of Barney has been filled by Jeff Bergman, Frank Welker, Scott Innes, and Kevin Michael Richardson, among others. None have quite matched what Blanc brought to the character, which is perhaps the most honest tribute anyone could pay him. Wilma Flintstone, Jean Vander Pyl.
This is actually my real voice. I'm putting this on for you guys, and I'm certainly putting it on for Fred.
We sort of phased into our own characterizations, and it really became Wilma and Fred pretty quickly.
Jean Vander Pyl was born October 11th, 1919, and she outlived all 3 of her fellow original cast members, becoming the last of the group to go and the longest lived. Her contributions to animation stretched well beyond Wilma Flintstone. She voiced Pebbles Flintstone as the character grew from infant to toddler, played Rosie the robot maid on the Jetsons, and took on roles in Top Cat, The Secret Squirrel Show, and The Magilla Gorilla Show. She was a consistent presence in the Hanna-Barbera universe for decades. Like the others, Vander Pyl was a lifelong smoker, and lung cancer was what ultimately ended her life. She passed away April 10, 1999, at her home in Dana Point, California, at age 79. Upon her death, her son Michael O'Meara made a statement that recontextualized something fans had always found charming about the show. He said that everybody on the Flintstones smoked and that all of them ended up dying of smoking-related diseases. He also revealed where the famous closed-mouth giggle came from, the one both Wilma and Betty were known for. According to O'Meara, the actresses developed it because when they laughed normally as smokers, they would break into coughing fits. The sound was never scripted. It was a workaround. That small detail lands differently once you know the full story. What generations of viewers experienced as a charming and distinctly animated quirk was really a symptom hiding in plain sight. A reminder that 4 real people were behind those voices, living real lives with a habit that would take each of them in turn. Now it's time to hear from you. Knowing everything you just learned, does that famous Wilma and Betty giggle hit differently? Let us know in the comments section below.